Hello again, gamers. Welcome back to the Board Game Captain. I'm the Captain.
I'm Lynn.
And today we're going to be reviewing and showing you how to play Launch Land Expand Ursa Prime. So I want to give a big thank you to Ryan Logan, the designer of this game, for sending us a copy to be able to play and review and film some content with. Big thank you to Ryan Logan. Also, I want to say I've got a ton of links in the description down below that you can check out at your leisure. There's a link to BoardGameCaptain.com. There's also a link to my Teespring store if you'd like to get yourself some cool Board Game Captain merch, t-shirts, mugs, etc. And if you're in a position to and would like to support the channel, there is a link to my Patreon, all in the description down below. All right, so Launch, Land, Expand, Ursa Prime. This is a game being published, about to be published at the time of the recording of this. It's not actually available quite yet. But this is a game about to be published over on the Game Crafter. So this is a kind of area control game about colonizing an alien world.
Yeah, but first you got to get there.
So there's a lot of hand management and action selection and asymmetrical player powers. I mean, I say it's an area control game, and that's not a lie, but there's so much more going on here than just that.
Yeah, I generally dislike area control games, but there's enough, like the area control is...
It's one turn.
Is a small amount of it, so I do like this game.
Yeah. Spoiler.
Well, I just
Yeah.
just to explain that
There's a lot
it
more.
has area control in it, but it is not. I wouldn't call it an area control game.
Fair enough. I think, well, because area control is the main way you win, but there's a
Yeah.
lot more going on, and we'll show all that during the tutorial portion of this. All right, but let's start with we've got 2 to 4 players, 2+ hours. I like that they did that, and ages 13 and up. So let's start with the 2 to 4 players. Any thoughts on that?
I think it plays best with all 4 players.
Thoroughly agree.
If you play with 2 players,
It's two back and forth.
You have the choice of which players to play, and sometimes with games like this where they have different player powers, they'll say like, oh, for 2-player games you must play these 2 factions, and they didn't do that. And I wonder if we just, when we played 2-player, we just picked the wrong factions to do 2-player.
I think one of the issues is now it does play at 2 players, but I think this game is significantly better at 3 and then 4 players respectively. The more the merrier with this one. I really like it at 4. So the thing I think is the issue is that each faction plays very differently. They have very different asymmetrical player powers. They get funds from very different places. Some of them are stronger early game, some are stronger later game. And when you're playing at 3 or 4 players, there's the chance when you see one player taking away leading, the other players can kind of gang up on them, help each other with trades, do things to help each other out. Whereas when you're just playing at 2 players, that'll never happen. So I think that's why we like it better but we're almost getting into the review really right now. But yeah, so that is our response to the 2 to 4.
It's functional at 2, but it plays best at 4.
Yeah, so 3 and then 4 respectively. The more players, the better, definitely. 2+ hours, yes. And it can vary quite a bit.
Especially your first game, there's a lot going on.
And it can vary quite a bit also depending on if you play with people with analysis paralysis, etc. You will get faster the more you play this. And actually, we've gotten into a rhythm where we can probably even get it in under 2 hours. But I think the 2+ hours is a very respectable estimate to put on the box. Would you agree with that statement?
Yes.
All right. Ages 13 and up. Yes.
Yeah.
There's enough going on here. This is a solid, probably, I would say maybe heavier end of middleweight to lighter end of heavyweight kind of game. There's a lot in here. There's a lot going on. And I think 13 and up is a good estimate just because this is not a family weight game. There's a lot here. There's a lot of meat and potatoes to really dig your teeth into.
The family has 2 teenagers or 1 teenager.
Well, yeah, you know what
Yeah.
But when people say family weight game, they're
know.
meaning some of the players are going to be little kids, is what they usually mean. All right, let's have a look at the components. Now, again, this is a game that is going to be being produced by Game Crafter, but I do want to call out that this is possibly the most beautiful game I've ever seen on Game Crafter. From the cover art to the board art to the look of all the pieces. This is a very pretty game, and if it didn't have, the Game Crafter kind of laser cut components, and you told me it was made by somebody else, I would believe you. because it's generally speaking, often you don't think the Game Crafter stuff looks really like professionally done, but this one kind of does, which we'll get into in a minute.
Yeah,
Now,
all the pieces are of nice quality, I would say.
yes, so we have a bag of pieces for each of the colors. You have yellow, white, red, and blue. And in the case of each of these factions, you have little laser cut cardboard chits, those are pretty basic. Those aren't anything fancy. We have these nice little like busts. It's like a bust of a person. These are used for a worker placement aspect, because this game has like a little of everything. It's crazy. It's got worker placement, it's got hand management, it's got action selection, it's got area control. Any other big mechanics in there?
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm trying to. Oh, race. There's a race game in the middle of it
Yeah.
with getting the rocket ships down to the surface. And you have little plastic rocket ships. I love the plastic rocket ships, and I love these little like plastic meeples almost. They're not quite meeples, but they're really cool. You have a golden meeple in here. That's really nice. It's used for the first player. You're going to see a lot of these components out on the table. The laser cut coins, those aren't that special. Where I think this game is special is in the cards and the board. Those are the components that I like the most. Why don't you grab some of the cards while I show the board here. So for the board, there's this big, beautiful fold-out board, and I really, this is one of the things that I felt like was very pretty for a game that was on the Game Crafter. The board looks gorgeous. Great colors, really vibrant. Yeah, I really like it. I really like the look of the board a lot. Really well done. And the rulebook for that matter. The rulebook, again, very pretty, nice art, really good look to it, vibrant colors, good looking rulebook. I like a lot of the art inside the rulebook. I think it looks very nice. And generally speaking, where the rulebook is at now, very well done. Not really any issues. Lots of explanations of how everything works. A couple of minor ambiguities here and there, but overall, I would say a really well done rulebook, especially for an independently produced game. So here's some of the cards to show some of the artwork. So here you can see the back of the cards right here, again with that really nice artwork from the cover of the rulebook. And then on the front of the cards, you can just see some various nice bits of artwork up in the top there. They look really great. They reused some of the artwork from like the cover of the box or bits in the book, but this is all really good artwork and I have no complaints about it. And I love the layouts of the cards. Like they're very easy to understand, how much you get if you sell the card versus how much it costs for an asset to put out the card. We'll be showing all that while we're showing how to play the game. Would you agree with all that?
Yeah.
And then the final bit of components, other than the cheat sheets and the individual faction cards, which you'll see out on the table, is we have stock in each of the companies. And I love the looks of these. They're double-sided, and they each look like you bought a stock certificate in the particular company, but they are different. Each company is a little bit different and unique, and I really love the way they made these look. I like these a lot. What are your thoughts on the stock certificates?
They look good.
That's the point I'm getting at.
They look like what they're supposed to be.
Yeah, they're my thing again is that I feel like some of these components, especially the cards, the board, these, and the rocket ships, all feel very professionally done, which feels like, generally speaking, I feel like they're a step up from the average thing you would see on Game Crafter. Maybe the stuff on Game Crafter is getting better though, but also just I think a lot of the artwork that they commissioned to have done for this game is really good. So like I really dig the photographic, like they mix photograph with maybe some digital editing software and did some really cool artwork. So it's very funky. All right, so we're gonna head over to the table. We're gonna show you how this game plays, and we're gonna come back and we're gonna rate it and review it. Okay, so here we are set up to play a game of Launch, Land, Expand Ursa Prime. Now we're set up to show a 4-player game. The reason being that we find that 4 players is the optimal way to play this game. So I am on this side of the table and I will be playing the Oltani Draft faction. Now that corporation, the Oltani Draft Consolidated, is the blue faction. So all blue pieces on the board will belong to them. I am also going to be controlling the Highland Consortium. They control all of the white pieces on the board.
I am over here, and I will be yellow, which is Cynix, and I just said they were yellow. And also the Talion group, which is all the red pieces.
Okay, so now we are mostly set up. There's one thing we haven't done yet, which is a set of setup instructions which involve choices by each of the individual factions. So the setup so far has involved each of us taking our card, which tells us how many starting galactic credits we get, which we put on our boards, and then we take all of our ground troops and our rockets and put them on our boards. The starting sheets also tell you how much of your own stock we each get, which we have collected and put next to each of our boards. As you can see out here, the stock is the same color as each of our factions. And then we're all dealt 6 cards, though one of the special abilities of the asymmetrical powers for, which faction is that?
Its Talion group is allowed to hold 1 extra card.
Yes, and then we also have cheat sheets to help us. They're two-sided. They have one side that goes over all of the different turn segments, as well as the other side that goes over assets, boosts, commands, and launch. This is a very useful cheat sheet. We place out the board, we place our current stock value at the lowest value of 1 GC each. The GC is the money, the galactic credits. We place the rest of the galactic credits that we haven't given to each player on the board. We have also all of the fuel cubes out on the board. Now we're each in turn order going to choose our landing pads. These are the landing pads as shown here on the board, and we're going to put our a little token with our corporation symbol on the landing pads that we're going to pick where our rockets will be landing on Ursa Prime. Now, Lynn, show your little first player token there. Lynn is got the little golden meeple, which is the first player token, and she's got it in front of the red faction, the Talion group there. So they're going to be picking their landing pad first, and we're going clockwise around the board. So, Lynn, which landing pad will Talion group take?
They like that one.
Oh my. Well, then the Highland Consortium is going to take this one, and Oldani Draft is going to take this one here, which leaves Cynix on that last one there. The next thing we do is we do possible adjustment of the wormhole. Now, the wormhole starts on this space here as denoted by this purple star, but then the Cynix Industries gets to either move it closer to the planet or further out. And this is because the Cynix Industries have technology that allows them to control wormholes. All of their ships get to enter through the wormhole rather than starting on the outward orbit path. Other players can pay Cynix to let one of their ships use the wormhole, and there are cards that will also let use the wormhole. But at the beginning of the game, Cynix Industries can either move the wormhole closer to the planet, improving their ability, but they have to give up some of their stock to do it, or further from the planet, reducing the power of the ability to get some extra stock. So what have you decided to do as Cynix Industries?
I'm going to give up 2 stock to move it 2 spaces closer.
Wow! So that is a huge improvement on the Cynix ability. However, it does make Cynix rather vulnerable, because how much stock are you starting with there now?
5.
So very easily someone could do a hostile takeover of Cynix. So Cynix is going to have to watch that if people start going to the stock market to buy lots of stock in Cynix. Because if anyone ever has more stock in Cynix than Lynn does, Cynix will become a subsidiary of theirs. And if Cynix were to win, they would actually win instead. The next part of the setup we're going to talk about is that the Highland player, which I am controlling, gets to place the black hole token anywhere on the board they like. Any of the orbit spaces, even in the space with the wormhole, if they so choose. But I'm deciding not to do that. I'm going to place it right here. I think that's a pretty good spot for it. The next bit of setup is that the Oldani Draft player, which I am also controlling, gets to place the 3 asteroid fields on the board. Now, the asteroid fields can be placed anywhere on the board except that they cannot be placed in the space with the black hole, because that would too easily destroy them, if you will. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to place one very close to the planet here. I'm going to place one really far out there, and then I think I'm going to put one kind of in the middle over there. I'm going to kind of spread them out a little bit. That's it for the setup, except that we now each get a free ship standing upright on each of our landing pads that we had chosen during the setup, and then we're going to be ready to play. Now, the first phase of the round is the card round, and we start with the player who has the first player token, which is the Talion group, the red player that Lynn is controlling over there. So I'm going to hand it over to Lynn while she goes through the first card round. During the card round, you're going to be able to play command cards, play asset cards, and play launch cards as well as sell cards. You can do them in any order and as many times as you like. So take it away, Lynn, with the Talion group.
Okay, I'm going to sell these 2 supply cards for 1 galactic credit each.
Well, that'll give you some extra money to possibly spend on things.
And then I am going to play Cyber Attack, where I can steal 3 galactic credits from another player.
Now, this is a command card, which means Lynn can just play it and then discard it for its ability. So, Lynn, who are you going to steal for the Talion group? Who are you going to steal 3 galactic credits from?
Since Cynic starts with the most credits, I'm going to steal 3 from them. And then I'm going to play Supply Cache, which lets me launch ships with only colonists and soldiers.
Which means you don't need supplies.
Yes.
Now, this is an asset card. Asset cards have the cost you have to pay to play them out up here in the top right corner, while they have their sell value in the bottom right. Now, you could sell it to the bank for that much and then just discard it, but Lynn is playing this one out to make it cheaper to launch ships. Now, for the Talion group, they pay their asset cost to the bank. For everybody else, if we play an asset, we actually have to pay it to the Talion group because they have a monopoly on assets.
And that is it for the red player.
Okay, so now we're going to move on to the Highland Consortium over here. Now, the Highland Consortium is going to play a supply cache as well. They actually had the same exact card that Lynn had there. But again, I pay to the Talion group because they are in control of all of the assets. And I really needed it because I actually have in my hand a soldier card and a colonist card, but no supplies. So I'm going to use them with the supply cache that I just played to launch a ship. Now, when you launch a ship, you take one of your ships from your home world here and you put it in the approach. From the approach, they can come out into the orbit track to fly their way in towards the planet, or if you are either Cynics or if you later activate the wormhole, you could possibly come through the wormhole space, which is much closer to the planet. We'll show that when it happens. Now, I coincidentally happened to draw a pair of combat training cards, which are cards that let your soldiers on the planet have ambush. Now, I actually, as the Highland player, have ambush already, so I don't actually need this. I could put it out and try to sell them to other players, but right now I've decided I'm going to sell them to the bank because they're actually rather valuable at 3 each, so I'll have some money in the next phase for purchasing things. So I'm going to get 6 credits back from the bank. The last card in my hand I'm going to hold for a rainy day, and that's going to be it for the Highland Consortium. Then we're going to move on to the Aldani Draft Consolidated player. The Aldani Draft player is going to play a colonist, supplies, and soldier card, one of each, to launch a ship per normal, and they will put their ship in the approach over here. Then they are going to play a cyber attack card, and they are going to steal 3 credits from the Highland player who just got a whole bunch of money from selling off those cards. Then they're going to sell off their last 2 cards for 1 credit each, just to get a little bit more credits in their supply. They now have an empty hand of cards, and they are totally done with their card round.
Okay, I am going to play a command card. It's called Fuel Raid. I can steal up to 5 fuel tokens from the fuel reserves, or 3 from another player, but other players don't have any yet. So I'm going to take a big cube, which is 5.
Fair enough.
And
I'll discard that one for you.
I have a second one of that card. So
wow! Cynics has got all the fuel.
I'm going to get another one.
You need to get some ships out to use that fuel, though.
I don't have anything to get ships out.
So FYI, you can hold a maximum of 20 fuel. The Cynics player currently has 10 fuel. Now, normally when you purchase fuel during the next phase, you have to give a commission to the Aldani draft player, but Lynn is playing cards that let her get the fuel through an alternate method.
And then I'm going to play another command card called Creative Accounting. I double the amount of galactic credits I receive from selling cards this round.
So what value are we looking to sell?
I'm definitely selling these 2, which are only 1 credit each.
So that'll give you 4 back.
So that's 4.
Are you selling the last one or no? You're debating.
I'm debating whether to sell it for a lot of money or use it.
Oh, okay. Well, what do you think? Can you use the money more, or can you... I'm just setting aside the 4 credits for you, depending on whether or not you want to increase. But are you going to sell it or use it? What do you think?
I think I'm gonna play it.
Okay, well then,
I'm gonna
in which
play.
case, here's the 4 credits for you doubling the value of those cards.
And then it's an asset card. It costs 5 to play, but I gotta give that to the Talion group.
Indeed.
And it is the Highland Consortium Railgun. Oops.
Oh, I believe that lets you do attacks, like the Highland do, right?
Yes, I can attack other ships in the same space as me.
Oh, wow. Okay, okay. Very good. Now we're going to move on to the purchase round. The first thing we do during the purchase round is we're going to place our officers, which are done in a kind of worker placement method. Each player has 2 officers of their color, and there are worker placement spots around the board for the stock market, for the Galactic Bank, 1 for the approach, and 3 over there for fuel reserves in each of the appropriate colors. So starting with the Talion group, Lynn, where are you going to place one of Talion's officers?
At the fuel reserves.
Okay, so Talion is going to be buying fuel, and they want to stockpile up on fuel. They don't have any ships out yet to move, but you know they want to stock up on it for future use. Now, Hylett and Aldani Drath both do have a couple of ships in the approach, so they probably both want to get some fuel as well. So I'm going to go on the fuel as well with the Hylett player, and for the Aldani Draft, they also will place on the fuel because nobody has any fuel yet except for Cynix, and they got shut out of buying any more fuel, but they actually already had a whole bunch of fuel and no ship to move with it. So
Cynix is going to go to the stock market.
Oh.
Talion is going to hold back their second.
Okay, and now holding back an officer will earn you money based on your current stock value. So they're probably going to get 1 galactic credit for free. The Hylett player is also going to hold back one of their officers, and the Aldani Drath player is also going to hold back one of their officers for the same reason that the Talion group are doing it, because they want to get a little extra money.
And so is Cynix.
Ah, very good. So now we're going to go around and take our turns, and we're going to do the things from our worker placement spots, plus play cards if we have cards to play. So starting with Talion. Talion, what are you going to do for your worker placement spots? Well, one of them gets you a money, obviously. So let me pass you a credit over here. And then are you going to be purchasing some fuel?
Yes.
How much would you like to buy?
I would like to purchase 10 fuels.
Okay, so now that will be 10 credits. It's 1 credit per fuel. But the Aldani Draft player gets a commission based on the current value of their stock every time someone purchases fuel. So their stock is currently at 1 credit value, so they get 1 credit from the bank after the Talion group purchases their fuel. Is there anything else you would like to do?
No.
Okay, so we're going to move on to the Highland Consortium. Now, the Highland Consortium kept one of their officers back, which means they get their current value of stock from the bank, so they get 1 credit. And then they also did place one of their officers over for purchasing fuel because they would like to get a lot as well. So now I have 7 credits. I'm going to spend it all on 7 fuel. But of course, there is a 1 credit, again, commission going to the Aldani Draft player. Please pass me 7 fuel. Thank you. Again, the Aldani Draft player, keeping 1 of their officers back, gets a credit from the bank, now actually having quite a bit of money. And as one of their abilities, every credit they spend on fuel actually gets them 2 fuel, because they are the ones with a monopoly over the fuel supply in the game. They've decided to spend 10 credits and get the full 20 fuel, the max you can possibly hold. And therefore will have the largest fuel reserves of any of the players at the moment, but only keeping 1 credit back in reserve. And then what is the Cynix player going to be doing?
The Cynix player is going to spend 3 credits to buy 2 of their own shares back.
Ah, yes. So the first one cost 1 and the second one cost 2. So very good. And those were the ones that basically you had given up to move the wormhole and make it more powerful. Now, are you also, kept one back?
I kept 1 back.
So you're going to get 1 more credit for your reserves. Very good. So reducing your own disadvantage that you had going on, very well done. Next, we do the orbit round, where again, cards could possibly be played, and fuel can be spent to start orbiting through the around the planet to eventually land. So starting with the Talion group, they do not have any ships in play, but possibly they could play some cards. Is Talion doing anything?
No.
Okay. The Highland Consortium has decided to hold on to their fuel, and what they're going to do instead is they want to wait to build up some more fuel so they can move further and faster with their first movement. They only have 7 fuel to start with. The Aldani draft players decide to spend some of their fuel to move their 1 rocket and move it into orbit. Now, it costs 1 fuel to move each space, and what they have decided to do is move as such. They go 1, 2. Now it costs 2 movement points to move through a space with an asteroid field or a black hole in it. So that's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And they're going to spend 8 of their fuel to do that. Thank you for the change. And they're going to stay there. That is going to be it for the Aldani draft player. What is Synix going to do?
Synix has no cards, so Synix is just going to sit there.
Now it is the planet round, and the first planet round is generally not very eventful unless someone gets the particular asset that allows you to deploy troops immediately from that ship that you started on the ground, because generally speaking it takes 2 turns to deploy troops from a ship. So all of the ships that are here are going to get laid on their side to signify that that is the first turn of them beginning to deploy their troops, and in the next round they're going to get to deploy their troops into the space they are in. But for this planet round, we just basically move on because most of the other things we don't actually get to do. Eventually, we are going to get to adjust stock values based on the number of territories we control, and we're going to get money based on the number of territories we control, but we can't control territories until we have troops in them. So currently, we're going to basically just lay all our rockets down and move on to the discard and draw round. Now, during the discard and draw round, each player is going to discard any number of cards that they would like, draw up to their current full hand size, and then we're going to check to see if anyone has triggered the final round, which obviously they haven't because it is too soon. But going in turn order, starting with the Talion group, do you want to discard any cards, and then how many cards do you need to draw back up?
I need 4 cards because I can hold 1 extra card.
Okay, so go ahead and draw your 4. And then I'm going to ask for 5 cards for the Highland player once you're done with that. And 6 cards for the Aldani draft player. And then you know what you need for the Synix.
Yes, I need 6.
Now we place the first player token in the next player's play area, so the Highland Consortium will be going first. So starting with the Highland Consortium, we're going to be doing the card round. So the Highland Consortium is going to launch another ship. Using their supply cache, they only need to use a colonist and a soldier to do it. So they're going to discard a colonist and a soldier, and they're going to launch another ship in the approach. Then they're going to launch another ship, again using a colonist and soldier card, again using that ability. They just managed to get lucky on their draw, and they've got a ton of ships now on the approach. Then they're going to sell this supplies card because they don't need it because of their upgrade, so they get 1 credit from the bank for that. And they're going to play Quantum Exchange Drive, which is a command card that allows them to swap places with any of their launched ships with another ship that was launched. And what they're going to do is they're going to swap the place with one of their ships in the approach with that Aldani draft ship that had already gone out onto the table, because that gives them a boost into the orbit. And that'll be it for the Highland Consortium. So now we're going to move on to Aldani Draft. The Aldani Draft player is going to sell some cards. So they have the Ancient Artifact that has no actual ability. It's free to play it out, or you can sell it for 6 because its main thing is being able to sell it. They're also going to sell off this asset card for 3 and this colonist card for 1. So they get a total of 10 galactic credits from the bank, which is huge. So that really restocks their funds. Then they are going to play this card, Space Race, which by itself allows them to launch a ship. So they're going to get a second ship on the approach. And then they are going to pay 3 galactic credits to play Full Complement. And those 3 go to the Talion group. So give me change back of 2, please. Thank you. And now the Full Complement says that this asset allows your ships to produce 1 extra troop when deploying on the planet, which at this round we are going to get to deploy our troops, so the Aldani Draft is going to get an extra troop. Their last card they're going to hold on to for a rainy day, and that is going to be it for the Aldani Draft player.
Okay, Cynix is going to launch a ship with soldiers, supplies, and colonists. That's it for Cynix.
Ooh, they're keeping a lot close to the chest there. They're not selling anything?
Um,
They don't have a lot of credits. I was curious.
oh, you know, actually, yes. Because I'm going to sell 2 asteroid field map cards because I actually ignore asteroids.
And that's worth 4, yes?
Yes, 4 total.
2, 4. Well done. Here's your 4 credits.
Talion is going to launch a ship with colonists and soldiers because I have a supply cache.
Okay. Everybody's got ships on the approach now.
I am going to pay 5 for this asset card, which is Cynix Industries Stealth Tech.
Ooh.
I won't be able to be targeted by ships with guns now.
Which are the Highland player ships, and currently actually also Cynix because they got that upgrade. So it makes you, both Cynix and Talion are now immune to being shot out of the sky, which generally you can work arrangements during the purchase round with Highland to pay them protection money to avoid being shot out of the sky.
And then I'm going to sell these 3 cards for a total of 9 credits.
Okay, so is that it for the Talion group?
No.
Oh.
I have 1 more card.
Wow.
They're
doing a lot.
I needed the money to play combat training, which gives my troops
ambush. Oh, that's a great card because Highland has ambush automatically, so then I'll put you on an even footing with Highland in the ground combat phase. Well done. Okay, so now are you finished?
Yes.
Okay, so now we're going to go into the purchase round, and we're starting with Highland this time. Now, so Highland is going to declare that their first of their officers is going to remain back because they're really low on funds and they want to get some extra money. We're going to move on to the Oldani draft player, and they are going to put their first officer in the approach here, which means they have to spend, which means that when they activate that, they'll have to spend 6 money that they spend to the Cynix player to let one of their ships use the wormhole this round. What is the Cynix player going to do?
They're going to
fuel?
Get fuel.
Okay, and how about the Talion group player?
Talion group is going to the stock market.
Oh, they're going to buy some stock. The Highland player is going to keep their other of their officers back, and the Oldani draft player is going to buy some more fuel, so they're going to go over there to the fuel. And what is Cynix doing with their second officer?
The second officer is going to be held back.
Okay, and how about the second officer for the Talion group?
They're going to go get fuel.
Okay, so we are all set. So now going around the table, the Highland group is going to get 2 credits, 1 for each of their officers they kept back, because that is the current value is 1 for their stock, which they're going to add to their credit area. The Oldani draft player is going to spend 6 credits, which they give to the Cynix player for use of the wormhole, and then what they do is they move one of their ships onto the wormhole space here, which means now instead of flying out onto the board, it will fly out through the wormhole like how the Cynix player can normally do. Then with their other of their 2 guys out, they're going to spend 2 money to buy 4 fuel, because again, remember, they get double the fuel when they buy from the reserves.
How much?
4 fuel, please.
Okay, yeah.
Yes, thank you.
So Cynix is going to get 1 because they held back.
Oh, well, here you go.
And then they are going to...
They've got a lot of money because they
do.
just got a lot of money from Oldani Draft, so.
Yeah. I think they're going to just completely fuel up and get 10 more.
10 more fuel?
10 more fuel.
And have the max. Okay, well done.
And
now, yes, they get one credit will go to Oldani Draft as their commission for the sale of the fuel. And then how about Talion?
At the stock market, they're going to spend 3 credits.
Oh, who they buying stock in?
They're going to buy 2 stocks of...
Oldani Draft?
Yes.
Oldani Draft. Very valuable to start getting stock of another player.
And then they are going to spend 5 credits to get 5 fuel.
Oh, and then I get a 1 credit back to the Oldani Draft player as their commission on the fuel sale. Okay, is that it for them?
Yes.
Okay, then we're going to move on to the orbit round. So the first thing that actually happens in the orbit round, though we weren't able to show it last time, is if you are orthogonally adjacent to the black hole, like this Highland ship is, you get pulled into the black hole space. If you started the round in the black hole space, you actually get destroyed. But doing this is a bit of a trick to give a boost to their own ship to move inward on the track, which is what the Highland player was just able to do. Now they get to go first during the orbit round, and they have 7 fuel to spend, and they're going to spend all of it because they want to move that ship as far as possible. So they're going to spend 7 fuel. It's an extra movement in the space with the black hole to get out of it. So it's 7. It's like this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and they're going to wind up over there, and that's going to be it for the Highland player. Now we're going to move on to the Aldani draft player, who already spent the money to allow one of their ships to use the wormhole. So I'm going to use that ship, and it's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and they will land on the same space that the other ship is about to deploy their troops on, but they have made it to the planet. It costs them 9 credits to do so. Excuse me, 9 fuel to do so, I should have said. And I'm going to be putting the 9 fuel back in the bank. Now, I do have 7 more fuel, and I do have another ship I could start moving, but I would rather build up a large amount of fuel and move a large amount of spaces at once. So I'm going to just hold that 7 fuel in reserve.
The Cynix player is going to use 9 fuel to land on the planet. So I can use the wormhole.
1.
So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
So both the Cynix player and Aldani draft player now have a second ship on the planet, so they are going to be getting huge jumps on the other players to getting their colonists out. The Highland player has a planet on the inner circle, but hasn't quite made it all the way down.
Okay, the Talion group is going to spend all their fuel.
Which is how much?
15.
Okay.
And they're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15.
Okay, making their way into the second of the orbit rings. So are they all finished?
Yes.
Okay, so now we move on to the planet round. This is going to be an important planet round because we're going to get to deploy our troops and do some movement. Everyone is going to get to deploy some troops. We're actually going to get to start taking over territory. Normally, you get to deploy 3 troops each from each ship. However, the Highland Consortium gets to deploy 4 troops because there's one of their faction abilities. In addition, because of full complement having been played by the Aldani draft player, they will also get to deploy 4 troops, and then we're also going to get to do our moves. Now, the number of moves you are able to make is based on your current stock value, which means everyone is going to get to make a single move during the planet round. So the first thing is we're all going to get to deploy our troops from our laid down ships, and the standing up ships will lay down. So everybody is going to get 3 troops on the ground, except for the Aldani draft and Highland players, as already explained, who will have 4. Starting with the Highland player, they're going to get to do their 1 movement because that is their current stock value, and they're going to move 3 of the troops out of their already controlled territory there into the adjacent territory, now controlling 2 territories. Now, then that will be it for them, and then the Aldani draft player is similarly going to do that, but with this territory here, moving more towards the center of the board, now controlling 2 territories, followed by the Cynix player.
Yes. They are going to move here.
Excellent. And then the Talion player.
They're going to shimmy to the side.
Oh, they're coming at me, huh? All right, and then we are going to get our credits based on our number of territory owned. You get 1 galactic credit for each territory owned. Now, every player currently owns 2 credits, so we get 2 credits from the Galactic Bank each, after which we move into the discard and draw round, and then we move the first player token and we start the next round. So a few things that we didn't get to show. As you expand, eventually, once you get to 3 territories controlled, which would have happened next round, your stock value starts to go up. So all effects, things that are affected by the stock value, like keeping one of your officers back, that changes. So now if once your stock value is to go up 1, when you keep your officer back, you get 2 credits instead of 1. In addition, the Aldani draft player, their commission they get every time someone buys fuel is based on their current stock value. Also, when purchasing stock, the value of the stock from that player becomes more expensive, starting at 2 galactic credits once the stock value goes up 1, rather than 1. So the first one would cost 2, the second one would cost 4, the third one would cost 8. In addition, when spreading out, if you ever run into territories where other players are, like let's say this was the situation and the Aldani draft player would want to move some of their troops into there, the way it usually works is you simply kill an equal amount of troops from both sides, equal to the side that had less troops there. If there are any troops left over, they control the area. Except players that have ambush, like the Highland player has as one of their normal abilities, they get to destroy 1 troop from their opponent's side, regardless of the sizes of the armies, before you destroy an equal number of troops. So that allows them to always get to destroy 1 extra troop. Now, you did have an upgrade amongst one of your guys, which lets you destroy an extra one as well, yes?
Yes, combat training gives your troops ambush.
Which, again, does the same thing that the Highland player does naturally. So you keep playing until a status report happens during the discard and draw phase where one of the players controls their corporation fully, which means they have to have at least 8 stock in their corporation. They have 10 galactic credits, and they control 9 or more territories on the board. That triggers the end of the game. So then, in turn order, everyone will take a turn selling all the cards from their hand and then purchasing as much stock as they want from any given player. Then the stock can be turned into the bank to allow you to replace one of your opponent's ground troops, of whoever's stock that was, with one of yours. So for instance, over there we had the Talion group had 2 stock of Aldani draft. They could trade those 2 stock into the bank to replace 2 Aldani draft ground troops out on the board with Talion ground troops, which would allow them to possibly take over 2 whole territories that Aldani draft used to control. At the end of the game, whoever controls the most territories wins the game of Launch Land Expand Ursa Prime. In addition, there are many tiebreakers to make sure there is never a tie. If you have a tie for the number of territories controlled, the first tiebreaker is the total value of assets in front of your homeworld, followed by the total number of ships launched or in orbit, followed by the total number of fuel tokens, followed by the total number of galactic credits. So there should never be a tie in this game. So that's it. That is how you win a game of Launch Land Expand Ursa Prime. So now we're going to head back over. We're going to talk about how this game plays and feels, and we're going to rate it and review it. Okay, welcome back. That was how you play a game of Launch Land Expand Ursa Prime. Okay, I'm going to go to you, Lynn, first. Any negatives for Launch Land Expand Ursa Prime?
Well, when you first punch out the stuff, you get black soot all over your fingers.
That's a general negative with anything you get from the Game Crafter, because they do the laser cut pieces. So there is a tendency for the first few games you play, you're going to keep getting black soot on your fingers. Not even just when you first punch them, like for a while.
Yeah.
My first negative, I have a minor issue with one of the board actions, which we didn't actually show in the game there, which is the Galactic Bank action. So if you want to sell assets you already have in play, troops, ships in orbit, things like that to another player, you can't just do it willy-nilly. You actually have to go on the space and sell it to another player. So you sort of already have to have a deal going, like before you place a guy there. You have to be like, hey, I want to buy that thing from you, or I want to sell this thing to you. Are we going to be able to do a deal? And then you go there to do it, and you do get one extra thing, which is you get the ability to discard a card and draw a card. That's a little bit of a minor extra bonus, but generally speaking, I've found that particular area of the board doesn't get used that much. People generally prioritize other areas.
We just kind of ignore
it. It does. Like, we didn't show it really in the... Oh, and one thing, one of the things is because if you buy an asset from another player, you have to put it in your hand and still pay for it to play it again. So, and they're going to not want to sell it to you for less than what they paid to play it. So it's almost like you have to pay for it twice. Mm-hmm. So there's not a huge incentive to actually use those spots. The other spots are all generally more valuable, like buying stock, buying fuel, and buying access to the wormhole. Those are all very high desire. Any more negatives?
Just the little player square.
The planet board.
Yeah, the planet board. where you put your ships and your money and your troops. I wish that was like cardboard instead of because
it's sturdier.
Because it's not even like I don't. Maybe because it's bigger, but it even feels thinner than the regular playing card.
It's not. It's the same. I think it's the same thickness.
I think it's the same thickness. It's just because it's a larger piece, it feels flimsier.
But I mean, that said, that would the cost is generally because you do limited runs over on or print on demand over.
I mean, it's
on,
not. I mean, it would just be nice if it was sturdier. It's not like I'm not going to be deducting stars because it's not sturdy.
Okay, it's just a very minor gripe.
Yeah.
It's just that the cost for production over on GameCrafter is already a bit high. Generally speaking, they either do print on demand or sometimes do some limited print runs. They do sort of like a crowd source thing over there. So generally, it's fairly expensive. I believe the cost in this game is going to be around $80 as it is. So that would probably have been one area that would have upped the cost a bit more. It may not have really been worth it.
I mean, I guess if you own this game and you want it to be a little more sturdy, you could always like laminate it.
Yeah.
Because I don't think they're double-sided. I think
the other side just has the symbol of the company on it. Yeah. So totally.
Yeah.
You could just laminate it. Yeah, you could back it. Okay, so that said, any other negatives?
Not really, no.
No, and that's not a lot. That's not a lot.
And it's like cosmetic negatives. It's nothing...
we did have the minor negative we talked about in the beginning that we really preferred at larger player counts, but that's not a negative so much as saying it's best at 4 players.
Yeah.
It's just not as fun at 2 players, 4 players. I mean, and there's plenty of games that are like that, where you're like, yeah, I can play at 2 players, but it's better at 3 or 4. This is better at 3 than it is at 2, and better at 4 than it is at 3. The more players, the better. Okay, positives. You go first. Throw out a positive.
I like that you have to get your ship to the planet, because most area control games, it's just like you're there and you just deploy stuff. I don't know.
It's a whole extra element to the game.
Yeah, because like I said before, I generally don't like area control games, and I think the fact that you have other things to do makes me enjoy it.
You definitely do have other things to do, and that is something that is really cool. Another thing I want to throw out is, so the asymmetrical player powers in this are very diverse and very different from each other. Down to and including something I don't know if I've ever seen in other asymmetrical player powers, that when you take certain actions that don't involve the other player, just actions on the board, the other player gets to benefit from that.
Oh yeah, when you pay money.
Yeah, the Talion group getting to get money every time you buy an asset, the Oldani draft player getting to get some money every time you buy fuel, and the Cynix player getting money every time someone pays to use the wormhole. That's kind of really cool and really different. I don't know if I've ever seen another game do it that way. And that's probably, in my opinion, my favorite thing about this game. It's the most unique thing about it. The asymmetrical player powers, I mean, they went really, really big on the asymmetrical player powers. And in my opinion, it paid off. And when you have all 4 out, it does feel balanced. It feels like they all excel at different areas of the game, and everybody has a chance to win. And that is something that is really awesome. Your turn for a positive.
So another positive is the worker placement
area of the game.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like
one phase.
One
round. They call them rounds.
Yeah, one round where everybody does worker placement. That is really cool, and it's a really cool thing to add in a game, because this game has some fighting, but it also has a lot of Euro mechanics. Mm-hmm. Like, so you're saying the worker placement is great, which it is. I also like all the negotiation and the buying of stock and the trading of assets, and I love how if you can manage to use certain cards, because there are cards where you can steal stock from other people, you can actually do a hostile takeover of someone. But that person's not out of the game, because eventually they could do a negotiation to get some of that stock back from the parent corporation and get back the ability to chance to win. So I really dig that. Anything else from you on a positive?
No, I also feel like the variety of cards is good. Like, yes. I don't feel like there's like a type of card that like never comes up, or like you have a handful of like a certain type of card and you're like, oh, why can't I get anything else? It feels like it's well balanced.
And in a normal 4-person game, you're probably going to go through about 80% of the deck. You will get most of those cards to come up. And there's a lot, yeah, there's a lot there. There's a lot of cool stuff that you can do. There's a lot of cool cards you can spring on people. There's counters to cards. Because like there's a card that allows you to, when someone goes to launch a ship, you can sabotage it. But then there's another card you can play to react to the sabotage called Night Launch, where you're like, you counter the sabotage. So you can counter the counter. And I do think that there's all that, you know, in there, that it's all available. Yeah, so if you can't tell, we're pretty freaking positive on this game. Also, the area control. I like the area control. You're not a big fan of the area control?
The area control in this one is okay.
Okay. It's kind of lighter because there's no dice rolling.
Because you're just kind of like moving your dudes into the areas, and you really don't get near each other until the very end.
Yeah, and then there's usually like a little bit of fighting because usually it's easier just to not fight, to just go take the open territory if you can. So it's like
non-aggro area control, if that makes any
sense. There's a minimal of the aggro because there is some fighting, but it usually doesn't happen, like you say, until later in the game.
Yeah. And then it's like very clinical. It's like I have this many stock, so I can replace this many things.
Right. And then also, though, I really like how the area control ups the value of your stock. And in the upping of the value of the stock also has other side effects, like how the Oldani draft player late game gets more money every time someone buys fuel, because as their stock goes up, they get more money. Or how holding your officers back will get you more money if your stock is more valuable. But also it makes the stock harder to buy. So stock is very easy to buy early game, and it gets really expensive as the game goes on. So I definitely dig all that. I like how the stock has this sort of there's this meta that happens with the stock throughout the game where it changes slowly, and it's really kind of neat. Yeah, there's actually like a lot to talk about here. Yeah. Is there anything we missed? Any big important things we missed to talk about with Launch Land Expand Ursa Prime?
I don't think so.
No? All right. Well, in which case, let me ask you, do you want to go first or second with the rating on this?
I'll go first.
You want to go first? All right. So how many stars out of 10 would you give to Launch Land Expand Ursa Prime?
I'm going to give it 8 stars.
That is very high. That is very, very high. It is yeah. So you really do like this game a lot.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to go even higher. I'm going into the rarefied air of 9 out of 10 stars. This is fantastic. So first off, this game's about to be available on over on Game Crafter. It's going to be available shortly after this video comes out. I highly recommend, when it's available, buy this game. This game is a lot of fun. You should get this in your collection. If anything we talked about sounds interesting to you, get a copy of this game for your collection. But also, I also want to say, if you are another game company, a professional game company, watching this video, you should do a deal with the designer to get a second edition of this game done with your company, because this game deserves like a deluxe treatment. Even though it looks quite good here, like it could use a nice insert and maybe some even nicer looking miniatures for the ships and upgrade of the cardboard punch out chits and such. Just, you know, the few things that are not as pretty. I would love to see this get bought up and released by a bigger company. So yeah, I definitely would say it's worthwhile. This game is a lot of fun. I really enjoy it, and I'm very happy to have this game in my collection. So there you have it. This is a 2 thumbs way up review from us here at the Board Game Captain. 8 stars from Lynn, 9 stars from me. We thoroughly enjoyed this game. Would highly recommend it. The negatives we had are fairly minor. Overall, this game is great. Would you agree with that statement?
Yeah.
So there you have it. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, either on this video or the game Launch Land Expand Ursa Prime, feel free to put them in the comments down below. And if you enjoyed this video and you'd like to see us do more like it, be sure to give it a like, share it on all forms of social media, and if you haven't already, please subscribe to the Board Game Captain. That's Captain spelt with a K on YouTube. And until next time, game on.